Welcome to another edition of AMA. My name is Leah Love, and I am one of your marketing subcords for the One World by Night gaming organization. Tonight, I'm starting my three-part series of the midsummer event, Grand Elysium and BaneKlaive. It hosts the three Columbus, Ohio games of Columbus in Darkness, Wild Prophets, and the game that I'm hosting tonight with the HST of Jacob McCoy is Ohio Knights Sabbat. Welcome, Jacob.
Hey.
How are you doing today?
Pretty good. Just got off of work a little while back. Pretty good day otherwise.
Yeah, good. I was about to ask, how was work? I'm great. I'm really glad to be hosting this with you. You're an amazing person. You're also my neighbor. If I wasn't sitting in the room that I was, I'd probably do a knock on the door to prove it, because we literally are next door neighbors.
Right.
So I want to thank you very much for helping me kick this off. It's a pleasure to do it. This is my favorite event of the year. I look forward to it, and I think that you probably know once it ends, everybody's talking about next year, and then we've got midwinter, and once midwinter ends, this is all anyone can talk about.
Yeah, it's kind of one of the bigger events I've noticed. I mean, there's definitely Midwinter. Ecumenical Council Sabbat side, anyways, is pretty big. The Northeast event, so it's generally, I think, probably one of the top three events that people attend each year. So
yeah. Now, how many years have you hosted this event?
Well, let's see. Last year I did Camarilla and Sabbat side. The year before that, I actually had a break. Zeb Hillard ran it. And then 2 years before that, 2 or 3 years before that. So I think this is my fourth or fifth year coming up.
Wow. You are a seasoned veteran with this, aren't you?
Yep, been doing it for a little while.
Well, let's get started with just the basics so everybody knows what's going on.
Sure.
When is it held? Dates, times?
Right. Well, let me pull up my little calendar over here. Make sure I get it right because I don't want to misquote. We are hosting from July the 3rd all the way through July the 6th. That's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
So you are running day.
Well,
you're running days? Yeah.
Sabbat itself is only going to be running on Friday and Saturday.
Okay.
We're going to be doing sign-in starting around 11:30 in the morning, game starting at noon, and then we're going to go all the way up until 5. Okay. Campside plays Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I'm pretty sure BaneKlaive, I could be wrong on that one. I think they play Thursday, Friday also. Or, sorry, Friday, Saturday also.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, as Sunday is their normal day to play. Like,
Gotcha.
Friday's your normal day to play. Sunday is CID's normal day to play. Sunday is Wild Prophet's normal
Gotcha.
play. So, yeah.
Okay.
There's a little discussion of whether Wild Prophets is going to play on Thursday day. It never has before. It could change. That's something I will certainly ask Steven when I have him on 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, definitely.
So, who is on your staff?
Well, the staff for Ohio Knights Sabbat currently is myself and Sean Bailey. Those are the two people who have been doing it. We had another storyteller step down probably 3 or 4 months back, and we've just been two-personing it for a little while now. That was Alex Faria. Before that, we had Joe Arbach on staff, and then before that, even Alex Faria before. But right now, it's just a two-man show.
Gotcha. Sean Bailey is of Sheriff Kine fame of the Ventru clan, is he not?
Yep. He plays Eric Kine, Richard Robert of Carpathia. He's got some fairly prolific characters that are out there in the org.
Gotcha. So people know exactly who he is when he posts or when he's there. Now, you said you're two-manning it. Normally for your games, are you having any guest storytellers? Are you bringing anybody in to help you for this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're still working on getting the guest storytellers together. I don't have set in stones yet, but we're looking at having anywhere from 4 to 5 storytellers in total that are going to be on tap. Me and Sean are going to be dedicated storytellers for the event, and then the other 2 or 3 that we end up getting to help out they're going to be able to play their PCs, and then when we need to, we're going to tap them for assistance.
Awesome. So they're, I don't want to say they're storyteller lights or narrators, but definitely all stops. The buck stops with you guys.
Right,
There's an
absolutely.
issue, you guys are final say.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're trying to do a lot of prep work ahead of time as far as getting sheets prepared and working out stats for challenges so that there's no having to run the rules books or add things up or things like that. We're trying to get everything ironed out as smooth as possible before the event.
Gotcha. Now, when is the deadline for sheets to be turned in?
The deadline for sheets to turn in, again going back to my handy calendar, would be the 23rd at midnight.
Okay.
That's when we need to have sheets in for the Sabbat side.
All right. So that means no 2401s?
I mean, in the past, there's always been people that send it afterwards, and I don't want to say, yes, you can send your sheets afterwards, because then everybody's just going to send them in last minute. The earlier that you send them in, the less red ink will be on them.
So you are going to have a red ink party.
Oh, absolutely. Last year, we all drank a bunch of booze and ate a 4-pound bag of gummy bears. And just printed out all the sheets and looked through everything and red inked everything. It was great. It's probably the best part of Grand Elysium, save for the drinking for me.
Can I join? Can I be there?
Only storytellers, unfortunately. I apologize.
Oh, man.
But if you step up on a staff beforehand, you're more than welcome.
Awesome. I will look at that. But I'm a subcore. Doesn't that give me a little leeway there?
How
about I bring whiskey? Can I bring whiskey and? All right, okay. So you are going to be turning in sheets. Now, of course, there will be people who go, you know what? I really want to play Sabbat. I want to play during the day and drink during night, and they were totally ready to play Cam. What are you going to do with that? If they show up, they go, you know what? Last minute.
Last minute? I mean, we accept sheets the day of. It just makes it a little bit more difficult for us to get everything in there. And again, the red pen will be more liberally used. If you have any rare and unusual stuff on there, strange blood magics, necromancy, you're actually a fallen, fun things like that, you want to get that in beforehand because we're more likely to say yes to those things. But yeah, I mean, people coming in day of, if they're like, hey, this is my, 70-point Ravnos, we're going to thumbs up that without much of an issue. So
gotcha.
By all means, if you decide last minute that, hey, I am going to be able to make it, don't feel like you can't come and play. We want as many people to come out and enjoy the event as possible. So by all means, show up.
Wonderful. Then that brings me to item cards.
Yeah, there's not much to be done about those in advance. Generally,
How are you? I'm sorry to interrupt, but how are you accepting them? Do they need to be part of their sheet? I know I've seen people go scan them in, write them out, or they have to be attached to the sheet. How are you accepting them beforehand and then come the day of?
We've actually never accepted item cards beforehand. Not that we don't want them. If you want to send them in, feel free to, by all means. I've just never had them attached to a character sheet or anything like that. If you want to send in, or if you want to have your storyteller send in your sheet with the item cards that you have or the items in your notes, that's entirely fine. That'll save us time. I've just never had that happen before. Generally, we take item cards the day of. People bring them up to us. I hand them to Sean Bailey because I have no desire to deal with that in any way, shape, or form. Sean Bailey sighs and hates his life, and then he busts out the pen and decides what's allowed to come in and what's not.
Okay. All right. Now, we're talking about sheets and staff. Plots. That's the next thing is plots. What kind of plots are you going to be running?
Well, we have a couple of different plots that are going to be happening. The majority, the biggest one, the main one we're putting on right now, is a call from the local NPC Priscus that we have in our game for the La Sombra and the Zamisi to add on anti-tribute to their name. And there's been a lot of background things that have happened in our game that have kind of pushed for that to happen. A lot of it was player rant, some of it was pushed by us and court staff. But the big plot that's going to be happening is the ritual that's supposed to accompany the La Sombra and Zamisa are willing to call themselves anti-tribute alongside of the rest of their anti-tribute brother. Now, That's not to say that there isn't going to be other stuff happening. We have other plans, but that's the big public thing that's out there right now.
And is that pretty org-wide? There is always concern when it comes to big event games that travelers are going to come in to simply just local plot and really have nothing to do, or feel that they can make a difference in it, but given local politics, they're shunned, they can't really be accepted. How are you going to balance the travelers and possibly org-wide plot with your game and local plots? How are you going to integrate all of that together?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, as far as that goes, I feel like the plot we're running this year is very org-centric. It's part and parcel with the Civil War plot that's happening right now. Now, I've been trying to instill kind of I guess a feeling in my local game regarding the political climate I want going into Grand Elysium. I feel that I've done a pretty successful job creating that political climate, allowing players to react to it and alter it accordingly. So I feel like, I mean, obviously there's going to be a mix of local plot versus org plot. The game we're playing in, it wouldn't make any sense to do something completely non-local, disjunct from any local politics that have happened. So the best thing I could say would be that we're trying to intermesh the national things that have been going on the national Sabbat list with the Civil War plot and tie those into local events that have already occurred.
Okay, and you mentioned Civil War, so give us a rundown of the Civil War plot. For somebody who, like myself, that doesn't play Org Vampire, give me a little bit of rundown of what's going on with the Civil War, and what, if anything, will you be pushing with that plot?
Okay. Well, I suppose the base bear line of it is the Sabbat is a fractured rune sect that has the right idea and the right motivation. They're just the way they go about doing the right thing is completely wrong. So they're prone to infighting. They're prone to backpedaling and bickering, and at the worst of times, that comes out in the Civil War. There have been, I believe, I'm brain farting now. I think this is the fourth Sabbat Civil War. So there's been 3 before it that have occurred. The Sabbat, having only been around for 400 or 500 years since the Treaty of Thorns, obviously is pretty quick to dissent and pretty quick to turn in on itself. That's what makes it generally as a sect in the meta plot a failure, because they end up destroying themselves more often than not. So the Civil War this time, I can't really divulge what all the stuff that has occurred to cause it. The death of cardinals at the hands of possibly infernally resurrected vampires could be one of the reasons.
Is this a hint, hint, wink, wink kind of thing?
Well, I mean, if you were at Ecumenical Council, and I don't want to spoil anything, but spoiler alert,
okay.
One of the formerly thought to be dead, very prominent figures in the Sabbat, Mansada, is now back. And people are wondering how he came back, and there's been whispering that he was infernally summoned. That was kind of dropped at the Ecumenical Council, along with along with the I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. Along with the rumor that Mansada has also murdered one of the most beloved cardinals in the Sabbat, Radu Bistri.
Wow.
So there's definitely a lot of tension and infighting that has happened that has led up to the Civil War to this point.
That is enough to start a Civil War. That's some World War I kind of stuff right there. Wow. That's, I think Sabbat gets kind of a bad rap, and people forget how spiritual it is, how bonding it really can be. And when things like that, I mean, it really does kind of shake up not just the org, but the genre itself. And if I was playing, I'm sure that wow. I couldn't even, just to live every day and to have that weighing on my mind, to go through what a player, goes through when they think about what they're going to do in their downtime scenes in their games, that must weigh really, really heavily on them.
Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite. That's the reason why I like Sabbat genre so much. Camarilla genre is all about enforcing the static. That's why they call it the ivory tower. The entire point is we are separate and far away and disconnected, and enforcing this idea of the static nature of vampires, which is how vampires are. That's what they should attain for. The Sabbat, a lot of times, doesn't do that. They're a lot more dynamic. I find that personally the best way to view Sabbat is kind of like if you were to take Guru, the spirituality of Guru, and mix it with the divisiveness of vampire. That's a good way to view Sabbat genre in my mind.
It is, and you're not the first person to tell me that, and I'm really glad that other people, I found that to be very poignant, and I'm really glad that there are others that think that as well, because I think it's a beautiful way to describe the genre itself. I know when Ohio Night Sabbat started, I was one of the founding players.
Yeah.
I had one of my founding players, and one of the characters, I think she might still be on your books.
Got her.
I don't know. Oh, awesome! Jeanette Insigne.
She's in there.
Wow. Maybe we should pop by sometime.
Well.
But talking about genre, Pat gave us a really great question. It's kind of long, and I hate to read out questions, but how do you, as a storyteller and a player, keep the inhumane monstrousness of Sabbat from delving into childish horror? We discussed how, the material itself is very intense, and, there is a lot of spirituality, faith, morality within it, but it can easily turn into kind of this sweaty teenage power play fantasy. And, of course, there's different styles, but how... Given the mature nature of this particular genre, does it require a more mature view? How do you, kind of keep that in check from sliding to maybe the Twilight or, kind of kitschy things?
Well, I mean, as far as it goes, I think that Sabbat gets kind of this bad rap that they're a lot more monstrous than the Camarilla, which, I mean, in a lot of cases can be viewed as true on a very superficial level. They practice rituals that involve, hanging people from meat hooks and drinking from them so that they can be more nourished. It's all about humiliation and posturing and really embracing vampiric nature. And I think that's kind of the point there, is that's vampiric nature. The Sabbat is all about, like, hey, this is who we really are. This is who the Sabbat is, as compared to the Camarilla, who the Sabbat would view as kind of like stifling that, putting it away, trying to maintain their humanity despite the fact that they're clearly something that's more than human now.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's as far as how we try to keep that true to personal horror, true to like gritty, deep, terrifying vampire, and not, some angsty teenage, hey, look at this, I made a, dick whip that I'm hitting people with, and lol, I'm as a niece. The biggest way that I found to do that in my game is through feeding scenes.
Okay.
Whenever people end up losing a feeding scene, I try to put them in a situation that forces their morality. And in a lot of cases, a lot of Sabbat players tend to start off on paths. So I put them in situations where they have to kind of think through how a character on their path would do that. And that generally I find helps them along that path of kind of getting more into who their character is and following that more darker, angsty nature of Sabbat, and not, kind of going, oh, look at this, I'm a monster, I fist a whole bunch of babies, now I'm wearing baby armor, ha ha ha. Which, I mean, obviously, there's always going to be players that want to do that, and ultimately, as a storyteller, I view my job first and foremost to be physics. If you want to be a player who plays as a Mies that makes baby armor and a dick whip, I'm not going to stop you. I trust that the players in my game will stop you though. Thankfully, a lot of them are really, really good as far as like understanding Sabbat genre and Sabbat canon and kind of giving it a level of depth of seriousness. So
I think a part of it as well is that life is very feudal when it comes to Sabbat members. I mean, shovelheads for one, they're not picked out and groomed as Cam does. There's not, it's very quick. It's let's build an army as soon as we can, and that futility is also shown in their behavior. And just from what I've experienced, just going forward head first into everything, and they don't survive very long, and that's one of the reasons why there's all these shovelheads. So would you think that that would play into possibly the immaturity that people have?
I mean, in a lot of ways. I mean, here's the thing: the majority of people that play or want to play immature characters generally view themselves as, or generally play concepts that are newer embraces. I mean, the Sabbat embraces everybody, like you said, shovelheads. Oftentimes, when they need to go to war, when they need warm bodies, when they need a distraction, they just mass embrace. And if you survive, great. You get to join. You get to go back for round 2. And I guess in some ways it makes sense. It makes sense that if you're just Joe Schmo and you're picked up off the street and you're forced to endure having all of your blood drained from your body, go through the embrace process, wake up, and be thrown at a city where your entire job is to kill as many people as possible and survive, with the promise that you'll be able to escape, or even worse, being driven into frenzy and then being forced to do that as your beast takes control of yourself. As you exit those situations, surviving, you're closer to your beast. There's no way that you're going to be, just normal Joe Schmo after that. You've lost humanity more than likely.
Right.
You've become more bestial. So you'll find people, and it makes sense to be, hey, I've been, I was a shovelhead a year ago. I was embraced a year ago. I've been in 3 sieges now, and I've survived, and now I'm humanity 1. So I've got a modern look on things, and I happen to be, a gangrel. So I do these silly things because that's how I view it. Now, I mean, that's entirely up to the player if that's how they want to interpret their character. Again, not going to tell them no. But the point of the Sabbat being the hypocrisy it is that you have elders that are bearing down on people like that.
Wonderfully distinct. Thank you very much. I'm gonna go back to plot wise a little bit. We talked a bit, there's some org plot. Have you been working with any chords in regards to your plot? If so, who?
Oh yeah, I have, I don't know, probably an 80 email chain going back and forth between Team Sabbat, all the subchords on that, the Sabbat chord himself, the Tzimisce chord, the Lasombra chord. I've been in contact with the Salubri chord. I mean, pretty much all of the major Sabbat chords or subchords have contacted me. So I mean, there's definitely a lot in the works as far as that goes. We've done our best this year to try and make this, again, like I said earlier, an orc-centric event game. People who come to it, hopefully will be able to come to it without feeling out of place or like they don't really have an idea of what the theme is, because the goal is to continue the theme of the Civil War throughout this event.
So do you think that it's a lot of behind-the-scenes NPC, since you have so many chords and subchords helping you? Do you think there's a lot of like NPC theater behind the scenes, and there's not going to be really any impact on the genre?
I specifically try my best to not involve a lot of NPCs. As a matter of fact, we have our local Priscus who's planning to be involved. I know the Salubri Chord wants to do some stuff with Salubri's at a clan meeting, and she or one of her subchords will be portraying some NPCs there during the clan meeting. And then I have one other NPC coming in from Team Lasombra, and that's all I have planned. The goal ultimately for me is to create a plan generated by the NPCs that is then thrown out to the PCs so that they can do whatever they want. The goal is to get the PCs fighting and squabbling and yelling at each other and ultimately demonstrating why the Sabbat goes to civil war because they can't agree on things because they are a dissentious group. So ultimately, no, don't have a lot of plans for NPC theater.
Good. There, the way that the event is set up is that when you sign in, you are in, no matter what. Now there are some exceptions. For instance, Wild Prophets. Essentially, it's you sign into Columbus in Darkness at the beginning of the event, and I think if you were only there to play Wild Prophets, given it's a completely different genre, you're still signed in, but I guess the CID crowd can't really come and find you unless you show up to their game. Is that correct?
I mean, as far as that goes, cross-genre interaction happens, and I love it. Personally, I love when the Cameron and the Sabbat face off. I know that oftentimes it turns into nothing but a gigantic mass combat chop fest, and that's really unfun. But the Sabbat and the Camarilla in canon interacted. They were meant to interact. They were designed to interact. They are a yin and yang to each other, and I think playing a Sabbat game where you only have like the weekly generated NPC antagonists that come in and are meant to be Diablo rebate, and the vice versa for the Camarilla, I think that's boring. I've never found joy in that. So I mean, as far as that goes, if players come to me and they say, "Hey, I have my cam character. I got it approved by CID staff. I got it sent in early. Here's my sheet. I'd like to come in and do some stuff in your game." Absolutely. I mean, if group players want to, I have a firm policy of not telling players no. There's no reason why you can't bring your character into my game. So
I did play a guru who came to Cam 2 years ago. Oh, we sat in a room with a couple of people and a storyteller, and it was pretty much the extent of it. There was an elder guru who'd be like, "You know what? We got this," because I can literally turn into the sun. So right. I can literally turn into the sun. So we're cool. We're good with this. It was a really exciting experience. With it was just because I was playing a Cleoth, and just, oh my gosh, elder of my tribe said to do this. Okay, I'm going to do this. And then it was like really exciting. And then the way storytellers come in and goes, no, this is this is how you feel now, and playing off of that. But being right there with a vampire as a guru, you're like, can I touch you? Like, is this real? Right. And you said that you invite any cross-sect, cross-genre, which is awesome. Mm-hmm. But there's so many games that go, can you find us? If you can't find us, then you can't be here.
I mean, they have a legitimate. I mean, it's true. If you can't find us, you can't be there. And I mean, my goal is not to cock block players and say, yeah, you could sign in your character. Where are you going? I mean, if you have an idea of where you're going, if you want to, if you're like, look, my character has, assuming you're a Cam Vampire, my character has Sabbat Lore 4. I've heard that there are Sabbat over to the west of the Columbus area. I'm going to go to the west. I'm looking for Sabbat gang signs. I'm looking for, cities that have a whole bunch of broken, back alley street lights and stuff like that. I'm looking for signs of ruin and destruction. Like, we're not. Our goal is.
You're looking for Detroit.
Yeah, exactly. We're looking for Detroit light in Southern Ohio. Can we find that? Obviously, if you're looking for the right things, you'll be able to find your way in, and that's definitely something you can do. And our goal is not to. I know one of the other big concerns is, you'll just kill me with your big NPCs. Well, we have no plan for that either. We even really don't have big NPCs to throw at you, save for the Manticore, but that's another story.
Oh, you brought up Manticore. Did you just explode with Manticore this week? They absolutely exploded with Manticore.
There was a lot of Manticore and Manticore-related items that were brought up, especially on the uncensored list. The Manticore has become, in a lot of ways, a trope for our game, which, I mean, has its good and its bad. Some people take it lightly. It's really unfortunate because In a lot of ways, it should be viewed as a terrifying, horrible, bygone beast that it is, because that's what it is. But I don't know. I mean, it has its ups and its downs. It's somewhat org famous now, I suppose.
Yeah. Will it play a role this year?
I have no active plans for it to. The players have successfully bound it as of last year's Grand Elysium Sabbat side plot. As far as I can tell you, it is still bound in that cave. If players want to go and try and interact with the Manticore or get into its cave or undo its binding, they're welcome
You'll
to do
stick
so.
go to Sean Bailey for that.
Maybe Sean Bailey or me. It all depends. If I want you to have a greater chance of PC death, I send you to Sean Bailey. So
Fair warning, viewers, if you want to tap into the Manticore plot and he sends you to Sean Bailey, well, you just signed your own death certificate now, didn't you? No, I'm
you
just
may
kidding.
die.
You may die. Well, there was a big topic that people wanted to kind of opt out of the mass combat that happened last year, and it was either fight or fuck you. Pardon my French. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, there was a that question was brought up on the uncensored list, and I mean, some people said, "Hey, that's not really the case. You know, my character had nothing to do with it, and I went and made my own plot." I mean, in a lot of ways, last year was a very plot-centric, combat-centric year. And sorry, I apologize. My dog is very needy.
That's okay.
So,
She's
I mean,
adorable.
she is a little bit adorable. But yeah, so I mean, you know, that was definitely an issue last year, and I mean, the goal is to not have, you know, combat centric constant fighting that's going on. You know, the
Right.
goal is to try and facilitate more of a role play oriented situation. I don't mind doing either in events. I think sometimes it's entirely understandable to have combat oriented events, and sometimes it's difficult for you to find things going on other than that combat. But this year is not going to be one of those years.
Okay, so if a mass combat breaks out, or a pretty large one, we won't say mass, but given a good amount of your player base, how do you plan to handle that? Because, you know, when you go to an event, there's so many events that are either completely role play and there's not really a lot of action, or it's mass combat for 8 hours and you're sitting there just chatting out of character.
Right. The
If
goal. I mean, as far as that goes, like I said, the goal is to not have mass combat happen. If players do things or instigate mass combat, if one player is just like, "Hey, buddy, fuck you," and throws a chair at another dude, and the other dude gets uppity at him, and you know, creates tentacles, and like five other people join in, I'm going to facilitate the combat that comes out of that. However many people want to join in and fight are more than welcome to fight. And if people decide they want to go out and do dumb things, like, hey, our goal is to actively go and try and find a whole bunch of mortals to fight, or our goal is to, you know, do whatever. I will facilitate whatever plot the players want to do, and if that results in a combat, the players that went and initiated those things or are fine with being in those things are going to be in them, for good or for ill. But my goal is to not grab a whole bunch of players up and be like, okay, this side of the room, fuck you, take some ag. And combat is now beginning. You know, that's I have no desire to start stuff that way.
Gotcha. There are some rumors going around that maybe Sabbat and Cam will be played at the same time.
I have not heard any of those rumors. I know that there are some people out there that are very Sabbat oriented and very pro Sabbat, and they generally only come to the event for Sabbat. And I know that they have in the past, instead of opting to go to campsite of things, go to their rooms and role play and do Sabbat stuff. And generally, we have no issue with that. Feel free to do so. If we have a narrator that's free to go watch you guys to adjudicate challenges or do stuff like that, that's awesome too. We've also had some Sabbat players who have wanted to sign and affect the cam game, and also no issue with that. But I have no active plans to run Sabbat stuff alongside of Camarilla stuff, mostly because I'm also going to be storytelling the campsite as well.
And that brings up another question that I have. You're also a storyteller for Columbus and Darkness. Is that going to affect OKS in any way?
I mean, it shouldn't affect Ohio Night Sabbat in any way other than facilitating, if any cross-genre interactions happen, facilitating those even better. I mean, generally once a year, somebody gets squirrely. You know, somebody says, hey,
I can turn into the sun. Like,
yeah, I can turn into the sun. I want to go fuck around with a bunch of vampires. Or, hey, Kate Davidson's dead. We're going to go do march around 7 different counties and try and find this person. You know, things like that. And I mean, in general, I think that having a storyteller that's on both sides of the fence, one that can run stuff in Columbus and Darkness territory, and one that can run stuff in Ohio Night Sabbat territory, generally is a boon. So I don't think it's going to affect the games other than making stuff streamlined a little bit easier. If cross-genre stuff happens, I'll probably be the one that takes point on it.
Okay. Now I'm hosting Josh next week. Josh Hines, the head storyteller for Columbus and Darkness. Have you guys ever gotten together to say, you know what, we're going to team up our games to kind of run a Columbus vampire?
I mean, since I've started storytelling in CID about 6 or 8 months back now, I've actively done things that have caused cross-genre interaction. I think it's silly whenever vampires don't interact with other vampires nearby because they're in a different game or it's in a different territory and there's something that mystically bars them. I'm definitely a big fan of the open world idea of you know, one world by night. So I have facilitated local plot that has tied into that, but I've got no active plans to do any big cross plot for Grand Elysium that affects both Cam and Sabbat side. I mean, unless again some players want to go and do that. If some players are like, we're gonna burn a trail, like all 10 of us, we're gonna go in and march into Elysium site. Feel free.
Awesome. Now I'm gonna ask you a question here. You just said that you are all for open world interaction.
Mm-hmm.
You are very vocal on the lists about how you don't like Garou and other genres in One World by Night. Here is your platform, so to vent or have people understand your point of view.
I don't. First of all, I love Mage. If I could play in a Mage game, I would do that all day long. I love it.
Cleveland.
Yeah, you know what? I've actually considered going up to Cleveland, but I don't want to. I don't want to go up there and play infrequently because if I go up there once, I'm going to want to go back again and again and again.
Well, isn't that the whole point?
Yeah, but you know, work schedules. Either way, I don't hate other genres. In fact, I have no issues with Garou genre in theory. I found the way Garou genre is executed sometimes I've not been a fan of. I've also noticed, and don't get me wrong, they definitely exist in both Cam and Sabbat as well, but I've noticed that there's also an attraction that tends to happen in Garou that leads to a lot more, I guess, fluffiness is the best way to put it.
Okay. Can you give me an example?
Girls that wear cat ears and foxtails. Things like that. I love personal horror. I love the idea of personal horror, and I think that Garou, just like every other genre, has a great chance to be an avenue for personal horror. Like the idea of Garou being this dying breed of war beasts who are actively going to war to stop the end of the fucking world sounds awesome and chock full of horror. The few instances that I've seen, the couple times that I've played, have not left me with a positive impression of how Garou is handled in the org. Now, it could be different between now and then. I'm not saying that that's not the case. I'm also not saying that I guaranteed have a supreme view of exactly what Garou looks like. Again, I've only attended a couple games, but from what I've seen, it hasn't really impressed me terribly much.
Okay. Well, I can say that in my experience as a Garou player, my main character has tons of personal horror. That the fact that she has lost, I will be playing her 3 years at the end of August, and I have she is lost to somebody, be it NPC or PC, close to her, on average, every 30 days. That I should have the cursed flaw that if you get close to me, you will die. It wasn't that I set it up to say, oh, okay, well, this person dies, and it just literally happened that way. So I know that I myself have a ton of personal horror, but you are correct. There are a lot of Guru players, and I'm sorry, my Guru players, I love you guys, that definitely play the superhero, definitely play the, I am the hero of the story in there. But what is your aversion to having Guru in the org?
Oh, I have no aversion to having Guru in the org. I've made a couple offhand comments once or twice that Guru should go and be its own organization, which the only reason why I believe that or have ever voiced that view, even somewhat jokingly, the only tint of seriousness that's in that is simply for voting procedures.
Okay.
There have been Guru games that have voted on vampire props and vampire games that have fairly voted on Guru props. And I generally am not a big fan of that. I don't believe that if you have a Sabbat NPC or two in your Guru game, that you should have an equal voice as to the Sabbat packet that's being propped that affects my game and all of the PCs inside of it. And I don't believe, consequently, that because I have a Shadow Lord or Silverfang that is an NPC in my game, that I should be able to vote on the Shadow Lord packets that may be going up, or any Guru packets or Guru props or rarity changes that affect Guru side. Administratively, I think they should be on two different sides because of that. But I don't hold any animosity to the Guru games. I don't dislike them. It's just not my cup of tea.
Sure, and I don't think that anybody thinks that you dislike them, and a lot of people would actually really agree with you on that stance, because I know there's a lot of games that want to prop a plot or something that's going on, and that gets turned down systematically because vampire games vote on them, and there are so many more vampire games than Guru games that on average, if every Guru game were to vote against what the person was trying to get accomplished with their vote, Vampire would ultimately win almost every time compared to Vampire voting down Guru.
Right.
And I know, I'm going to go a little, off book, but I'm going to say I agree with you on that fact. Now, I think that if you, and it's a slippery slope, and when we hosted Justin Quigley here back a few months ago, he was in favor for it because it was, if you have a Shadow Lord in your vampire game, you should have the opportunity to be able to express that character in a way that you wish. And I don't think that he meant that people should just vote down stuff because you have it. I think that if you have that in there, that you should have a say, because there might be something you want to do with it, but then again, to me, it leaves it up to the person, to the game and how they want to use it. And I am very sure that there are games that just go, you're Guru, nope. And I'm pretty sure it's the same way with Guru to Vampire. But again, when you stack the numbers, Vampire is always going to win. Always going to win.
Absolutely. There's more Vampire games than there are Guru games, and that just makes sense. If all the Vampire games vote yes on a Guru prop and all the Guru games vote no, Vampire's going to win. Thankfully, I don't think it oftentimes works out that way. I think that there's just a couple of games on each side that tend to utilize the fact that they have opinions on packets that are being propped that are not in the genre that their game generally supports, and decide to vote that opinion through their game's ability to vote on it. But oftentimes, sometimes you'll see votes that, pass or fail by 2 or 3 votes, and if you calculate and you're like, okay, well, if this Guru game, and this Guru game didn't vote on this packet would have passed or failed.
Gotcha.
So.
And that's understandable. And Yeah, I bring that question up because I do see that, and I mean your comments though, I'll believe you that they're mostly in jest, have turned into some discussions. I mean, just hundreds of posts long on Facebook when it comes to that, and just kind of spurning that on. So that's why I bring that up because
Hmm.
when I think of somebody who is not necessarily against Guru, that's not what I'm trying to say, but is somebody who thinks the way that you do and makes that statement and you stand by it, which is great. There's so many people that don't stand by what they believe. There's a conviction there that really gets people talking.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So that's why I bring it up. Because when I think of, okay, who doesn't want them in the game or who hasn't said it, I think of Jacob McCoy. And your view is completely valid. I don't want to say that it's not. But I did want to ask that question so that you had the chance to
Yeah,
get
totally
that out in the open. Yeah. What are you, back to fun stuff. I had to get the little controversy out of the way. What are you looking forward to most in Grand Elysium, BaneKlaive, as a whole, not just for your game, as a whole?
Alcohol. I mean, uh, people who haven't had the opportunity to run an event game. Here's the thing. I'm not saying, oh my god, my life's so fucking stressful. Like ultimately, I do this because I love the game. The game is fun. I enjoy the genre. I enjoy facilitating a fun time for the players. I mean, much like a mother loves her child that she's given birth to, the giving birth process, painful, not fun sometimes. Uh,
But
but
very
you know,
rewarding.
what comes out of it is good and enjoyable. So, yeah, to answer your question, alcohol, being able to chat with players about the fun that they hopefully will have.
Also, alcohol. Did we jump into like a midwinter discussion here? Do you think, I mean, do you think this midsummer event rivals midwinter when it comes to alcohol?
Nobody's gonna rival Milwaukee when it comes to their booze. Like, I mean, there's no fair comparison. You know, they got people there like Chuck Farmer.
Oh my God, we've been up
You know,
there and it is cold and snowy and icy and we need things to keep us warm.
I mean, as much as people in Ohio complain about their weather, Milwaukee has it
Nothing.
worse.
Yeah, they really
You know,
do.
when you have winter 8 months out of the year, eventually you run out of video games you want to play, and drinking is just something that naturally happens. So, I mean, I will by no means ever try to claim dominancy as far as alcohol goes. Midwinter has that one hands down, but I know we have some people from the Milwaukee and other Arctic areas that will be coming down here, so hopefully they'll be able to bring some of their choice booze.
Well, there's always the apple pie that's kind of going around.
That's sort of what I was inferring.
There you go. I always get my apple pie. I remember last year I had a character die. It was very important to me, and
Oh,
yeah. She's still remembered, and in fact was brought up this week, which I was like, oh, you guys, I love you too. And I had a gallon of apple pie in a night.
mm, that's a lot of apple pie.
That's a lot of apple pie. I was drunk, but I was not, fall down on my face or anything like that. It was a
And it was
good.
also probably the tastiest drunk that you've ever been,
Oh my
because
gosh,
apple
it's
pie is
so
astounding.
good. It is so good. So good. Oh my gosh. I think we could just talk just about that aspect of the event just
Forever.
alone. Alone. um, so are you gonna be playing at all this coming event? I mean, you're S team for the two CAM games. Will you pop in and give Guru another try?
Well, I'm STing the Sabbat side during Guru, so yeah, we unfortunately Guru and Sabbat play at the same time, and I definitely can't go and give up Sabbat. I have to be there the entire time for that. Perhaps if they end up doing something on Thursday or Sunday, barring the fact that I'm not potentially very hungover. If those happen to work out, then I would be more than happy to go and give it a try again. That's definitely something I'd be down for.
Awesome. Well, that's all the questions that everybody sent in and that I have for you. Jacob, I thank you so much for being here with me this evening. It was a really fun time. Again, I'm going to go knock on the wall and be like, what up, dude? So, again, thank you. It has been an absolute pleasure. You were an absolute delight. And I want to thank you for kicking off this 3-part series. So, to everybody watching, like I said, next week, I will be hosting Josh Hines, the HST of Columbus in Darkness, the Camarilla vampire game. And the following week, which is the Thursday right before the event kicks off, I will be hosting Stephen Hebblewhite, known as Joyless Opulette, on Facebook, the HST of the Guru game, Wild Prophets. Again, thank you for joining us on AMA. I'm Leah. My special guest tonight was Jacob McCoy. We'll see you at Grand Elysium.
Praise Cain.